Hello and welcome to the Blessings in the Streets podcast, season 1 reunion special. We've been doing this all week and we're back again with some wonderful guests. Return, I should say, along, of course, with my co-host and with me throughout the reunion special, Miss Lynetta Parks. And if you haven't had an opportunity to check out her episode from season 1, she was doing her thing earlier in the season 1, and again, she's linking up with me to serve in the capacity of co-host. Her episode was actually called "Permanent Solutions for Temporary Problems." It was one of our most popular episodes from season 1. So if you haven't had a chance to check it out, I promise you will not be disappointed. She has a powerful testimony to share, and I encourage you to check that out. But she's going to be hanging with us tonight and delving into this conversation. And joining us uh, is, again, familiar faces that have been on the podcast. Actually, this is their third time being on the podcast with me. These two young ladies I've had the pleasure of knowing for a little while now. We met at a networking event, and it was almost like we just kind of like instantly clicked, like we've been knowing each other for many years. And they're kind of like little sisters to me. But these are women who are on fire for God. And again, powerful testimony, very powerful testimony. They're actually the only guests that I've had throughout the course of the 70 episodes that were produced for the season. They're the only guest that actually had a two-part episode, and we're going to actually explain the details behind why that specific decision was made. For those who might be curious as to why that was the case. But with that said, I'm so honored and privileged and proud of them. They're doing some great works individually with their respective gifts and purposes in life, giving back, pouring into young people in particular. And again, just using their testimony not as a moment of weakness and defeat, but using it as a way to propel, empower, and empower the young people and others that they're coming alongside of. So without any further delay, please let me have the pleasure, the privilege, the honor of reintroducing to you for some, Miss Desree Robinson and Miss Sarai Johnson. Ladies, thank you for coming back. I appreciate having you, and it's good to see you again.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just in case our viewers haven't had a chance to check out your episode just yet, and for those who don't know what that episode is, they participated in an episode that was entitled "Diving In for Lost Kids," and again, this was the only two-part episode that we have for the season. So again, one of our most popular episodes of the year, and they're going to, of course, before the show is over, going to actually share with you some great news that actually came up out of that episode, in spite of some of the challenges that we had, even putting it together. So, but again, just in case those might be listening in, haven't had a chance to formally meet you, all of you ladies, for that fact, I'm going to give each of you an opportunity just to give a little little snippet about yourselves, who you are, where you're from, what you do, and then we'll just jump on in from there into our conversation. So I'm going to start with my co-host, Lynetta Parks, just in case you haven't had a chance to check her out and find out who she's all about. Lynetta, if you would just kind of give us a little introduction of yourself.
Whatever it's all about. That's a great. But if it's the time, we're just going to say I am a post God. I love love. I love people and hear about stories, and I'm excited when people own their stories. So this was an excellent opportunity to share in that with Joseph and with these that we've done a reunion. So for our native, they still live here now. I work in social services. I'm an advocate of justice. I'm a single mom with adult kids, and I'm glad to be here. I believe in purpose and know this is ordained purpose.
All right, all right. Just so you know, Lynetta, your mic was breaking up a little bit. So if I don't know, just to give you a heads up on that. But again, thank you for introducing yourself. And like I said, I know Desiree and Sarai, me and Lynetta have known each other since childhood. In case you didn't
Okay.
know, we went to elementary school together. So that's how far back we go. And we were both, of course, born and raised in Chicago. So known Lynetta a long time, and just again thankful for her being in the mix with us this evening. So, all right, I'm gonna turn it over to Desiree. Go ahead, Desiree. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know a little bit about who you are.
Hey, my name is Desree Robinson, born and raised in Dallas, Texas, and I am the CEO and founder of Lost Kids and Eminem Beginners Art School and Get Back Sundays. And I'm just here to help the next generation just to keep walking forward and just identify who they really are.
Awesome, awesome, and she's doing a great work. Author, just out here connecting, doing her thing, and I'm so proud of her every time she's posting about things that she's getting ready to get up into, and her inspirational messages that she likes to send out to people as well. It's just great to know her. So if you don't know her, you know her. You need to check her out, and we're gonna make sure you going before this is all over. We're gonna make sure you know how to do just that. And and and
Okay.
and and I'm gonna go ahead and flip it over to Sarai. She's doing her thing as well. So Sarai, would you go ahead and introduce yourself to our audience? Tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yes, so I'm Sarai Johnson. I am the founder of Dive Ministries. That stands for Develop Integrity Value Excellence. And so what we do is just allow people to know who they are in God and help them in their faith in God. So we do a lot of things where we host praise and paints. We host different conferences for domestic violence as well. A purity course for the teens as well, because I feel that it is very important for them to know who they are in God and what it means for them to be holy, just as Jesus was holy as well. So that is just a little bit about me.
Awesome, awesome. And my co-host, she's working out her technical issues on her end. She should be back on in just a moment, but we're gonna go ahead and keep things moving along. So for my ladies here, the first question that I have, and I want you both to answer, but I'll start with you, Desiree. Um, I want you to think back to when I first reached out to you to say, "Hey, I got this podcast. I'd love for you to be a guest on this podcast." My question for you is: one, what was your first impression when you got the invite? And secondly, what ultimately led you to say, "You know what? I think I need to go ahead and accept this invite and do this. This is something that I should go ahead and be a part of." I'm curious to know what was that process? What was that experience like for you?
To your first question, I kind of knew like we all had a connection, like you said, when we first met each other. So when you just gave the invite, I was like, of course, because it's time to tell our stories. I always used to have like a closed mouth, and now I'm very open, spoken about what I went through and going through. Because at that time, I was Jesus. I feel like I'm in the same storm right now. But just come on and actually be with someone that is on the other side, but similar things that we all go through together. So I just want to say thank you for the invite and thank you for the opportunity to even just tell my story, because that's like a biggest part of your testimony is your story.
I totally agree, and I thank you for not only accepting the invite, but just of course, trusting me, trusting the platform, and then of course, as you shared your story, just doing it so again authentically, so genuinely, so transparently. I mean, you didn't hold back, and
No.
and as you know, anybody that comes on the show, I always say, my only ask is always, just speak from the heart, and you let God just use you to speak from the heart, and you laid it all out unapologetically, and but again, with the intent of hoping to inspire and encourage and uplift people. So I definitely appreciate that, and I don't take it lightly, again, of you trusting me with your story and my platform with your story. So I definitely appreciate that. Same question for you, Sarai. You get the invite from me. Hey, you want to be part of this podcast? I'd love to have you on. What was that initial first reaction for you, as well as what led you to say, "Oh yeah, I want to be on board with this"?
So I was honored actually, because that was at a point of me, like she said, speaking out of my full testimony. So people, they'll know the things that you go through, but not in full.
Mhm.
So, and just to do it again with you all, especially Desiree, because we had connected so much, it was just like really good, and I felt really comfortable because I have already, again, when we met up, it was like we knew each other forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then with you saying that we're going to be transparent, I'm very big on being transparent where I'm able to come on and speak what God says and not have to be shielded or have to hold back things. A lot of people say that I overshare, but for me, I feel the things that you're hiding are the most important things that people need to hear. And
Absolutely.
so being a transparent podcast is what was like, oh yeah, okay, we can just get on here and talk. Cause like with me and Desiree again, it's we can get on here and say the real without
Mm-hmm.
having to water it down. So yeah, that was really good. That's what I love about this podcast.
Absolutely. And again, same with you. I'm so grateful, so thankful and appreciative that you accepted the invite and again was willing to be transparent, willing to be open. And I wanted to create a platform where it was just that. It was a safe space to be open, to say what it is, to be raw, to be real. It wasn't about sensationalism. It wasn't about putting you on blast or anything like that. It was just let it all out. Just share the story. Let it resonate, because I think that's the best way for us to connect with people. When everything sounds scripted and all formal and super structured and all of that, it kind of waters down and the scenario, and I didn't want that, especially for what we're trying to accomplish here. So I'm glad that you were embracing what my vision was for this, and that's why I don't get caught up in the a whole bunch of, as you already know, a whole bunch of the editing and tweaking and, oh, we can't say that and put that out, just say it, and everybody that I've had come on has always been respectful. Nobody's coming on here being super vulgar or anything like that or inappropriate, but I do still want you to say what it is. No sugarcoat, no glossing over, let's just give it straight, no chaser. Let's just do it, and if it's for you, it's for you to receive. And I truly do. Well, I know for a fact your stories in particular resonated with many people. Some who commented directly on my comment sections or whatever, and then some who just directly spoke to me. Your testimonies were definitely powerful, and I don't know if you had an anticipation that it would impact in the way that it did, but it did. And that's not just something that I'm putting out there. It was your episodes were one of the highlights from the season that really stood out and resonated with a lot of people, men and women, who came up to me, and they were very impressed and encouraged and inspired by your stories. So just if I hadn't shared that with you, just know that your stories did matter. It wasn't just something happenstance, just something to pass the time with. You made an impact on a lot of people. So. And again, we're still awaiting Lynetta to come back on, because I don't want her to miss out on any of these good conversations, because I know she has some questions, and like I said, she's actually has to view your podcast episode, so she's very familiar with it and wants to pour into you too and share a little bit of her insight on and take away from viewing it. So, but for my listeners, I do want to take this opportunity to kind of explain what led to us doing a 2-part episode. Um, so, for those who've been on the show, of course, like yourselves, one of the things that we always do before we start recording is we try to do our standard, mic checks and camera checks and things like that. So nothing was any different than when I had the two of you on. We did everything, and everything seemed to be perfect and in alignment. We prayed before we started. We were ready to go. But then we got rolling into the recording of the session, and we had cameras glitching, we had mics popping off, we had every kind of distraction that you could have go on in the production of the episode was happening, and it was it was frustrating, and we all trying to maintain our cool in the mix of it, trying to talk our way through it. And it was like, if it wasn't me, it was Sarai. If it wasn't Sarai, it was Desiree, and it was just going back and forth, and this was very unusual. I mean, because again, when you're doing podcast episodes like this, there's always the chance for a glitch here, a blurb there to happen, but this was unusually more
Glitch.
than the norm. I can't tell you that in fact, I've never had an episode of all the 70 episodes that I did. I didn't even have one that had this much technical interference, if you will, that was trying to disrupt what we were doing. And so by the time the episode came to an end, of course, we all talked about it, and I shared with you that I would, as I always do, I'll take the time to listen to the episode just to make sure that we at least were able to get the message out, that it was at least legible and in terms of somebody being able to hear it, because obviously if we can't hear it, then it doesn't really resonate. So here I was,
Right.
I must have listened to it multiple times, and I'm thinking, man, your messages were so powerful, your stories were so powerful. I just didn't want to cheat the story. And so unlike any of the other episodes that I did, I think it was only one other episode that I did a retake on. And it was circumstances beyond our control. Something it didn't actually, I couldn't download. Something happened that prevented me from downloading that particular episode, and I had to redo it. But in your case, it was like I was faced with that decision: do I do it again or do I not? So then I reached out to the two of you and said, you know what, I just want a cleaner version of this. Your stories were too powerful, and so I linked up with you all, and you said, yeah, we'll come back and re-record. Great. Then for audience, we came back a second time. We scheduled a date and time. We went through our checks and balances like we did the first time. Mics were good, camera was good, got rolling. Second time around was even worse than the first time around. I mean, glitching. I mean, cameras in and out, sound all over the place. It was just, it's
It
like,
was
what is going
every.
on? I mean, we were just I'm gonna say we were in a spiritual warfare in the midst of trying to record this
Yes.
podcast, because there was clearly an energy, a force that was not trying to make this conversation happen.
Right.
That was my take from it, and I know that was your takes from it. And so then, but we, again, just like we did the first time, we managed to fight our way through, push through. We got to the end of it, and we're sitting here again, like, okay, are we gonna do a third time? Are we gonna? Was this a mistake? I mean, and of course, before I let you all go, after the second recording, I said, I'm gonna listen to the second one, and then, and depending upon how that goes, I'll pick.
Pick the
I'll
best one.
pick the best one
Uh-huh.
between the two. So now, of course, just like I did with the first one, I listened to that second one multiple times, and I'm trying to weigh, which one sounded better, which one was, and just, after going back and forth with that, I'm just gonna say, Spirit spoke to me and just said, you know what, you don't have to choose. Let's just put them both out there. And I had to actually remind myself of something that I always say to all of my guests, is that, as long as the message is out, that's what's most important. So why am I going to do anything different this time? So I remember reaching out to the two of you and said, I decided let's just do both. And you both were like, we were hoping you would say that, and there it was, part one and part two. And I'll be honest, I didn't know that once the air date came, I didn't know how is this going to flow, because I knew your stories were on point, but I'm thinking, will people get distracted as they're listening to it,
Right.
or will they sit through it and not allow that to distract them, but really embrace the message? And by the grace of God, that's exactly what happened. They embraced the message, and I'm looking up, and at that particular time, in comparison to other episodes, the pace that your episode was being viewed was even faster than a lot of the other episodes, which were all good episodes, but they didn't even have nearly the amount of technical difficulties going on. But people were
Right.
listening, people were liking, people were commenting, and I was like, they're talking to me like they don't even hear what I know we heard and what we witnessed. They I don't even have anybody that even came up to me. Really, maybe one person that even commented about the glitches or anything like that. It was like they were so engrossed in your stories that it didn't bother them. And again, I give credit to God for that, because when there's a message that you're supposed to hear, it doesn't matter, what the setting is, what the noise may be
Yeah.
around you. If it's supposed to penetrate into your heart and you're supposed to receive it, He's going to make sure that you're able to tune out the distractions and all of the crowd noise, if you will, so you can get from that message what you need to get from it. And I thank God for that, with respect to your particular story. So he showed up and showed out, and it didn't matter that the enemy was trying to disrupt us and get us discouraged and saying, forget about it. Let's just call it all off. He didn't say that. He said, no, we're going to go ahead and roll with this just like we did it. No problem. No issues. We're going to make it happen. And so I'm so thankful that, I didn't give up on it, and we didn't try to do a third and a fourth time, because who knows, we could have been going through that over and over and over again. At one point,
Right.
we just got to be like, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna just make it happen, and that's just it. So I'm glad that we did that, and and here we are again for a third time, reuniting, talking about what the experience was like. And so again, for my audience that's tuning in, if you were wondering, or if you haven't had a chance to check out the episode and you noticed, that this is why the two-part came about, and it proved to be a blessing all around for all parties involved. So I'm so grateful that we hung in there, because that's what it
Yeah.
comes down to when we talk about overcoming adversity. You can't just give up because it gets hard. You can't just give up because it's not going the way you want to. I mean, that's just not real life. We're going to have the bumps in the road. We're going to have the stumbles along the way, but we got to know that we can get back up, keep moving forward, keep leaning on God for that strength and understanding and direction and guidance, and we're going to be all right. You know, yeah, it might have knocked us down, it might have shook us a little bit, but it didn't take us out. And
Come
and
on.
that was no different than what we had here when we were recording the episode. So just wanted to give that insight to anybody who might be wondering why they get why whether they were curious, or whether or if they were just jelly that y'all got two parts and everybody else didn't get that. Now you know. Now you know the inside track of how that went down. So so with that said, Lynetta just messaged me. She had to reboot her system, so she should be back on shortly. So, but we're gonna continue on along. So now you've accepted the invite. You decide to come on the show, and of course, as you know, we always get to the point of the podcast episode where I ask you, to tell me about a time when you were faced with a moment of adversity, a challenging situation that was a little bit heavier than what you're used to. This was something that you didn't know how you were going to overcome this. You were doubting. You were questioning, am I going to be able to make this? Is this really too heavy for me out of all the stuff that I've dealt with before? And so my question for you is, I'm curious to know, how were you feeling as you were getting to that question and getting ready to respond to it? What was your feelings like prior to starting the story? What was your feelings like as you were telling the story, and what was your feelings like once you finished the story? Kind of take me through that emotional experience. What was going through your mind as you were telling that story? What was that like for you, for your respective stories? And I'll start back with you, Desiree. Tell me what was the telling of that story like for you in that moment?
Being the authentic self. I always, like I said, used to hold back. So just being transparent and just open where I was at that moment, at that time, because a lot of people, I heard this message from Pastor Keon, and he was like, no edits. Like, everybody's always trying to edit their life and like what they going through. And just having that conversation and just telling my story just kind of like opened me up in the aspect of the little girl inside of me. Yeah, I may be older, but we all have like an inner child. So it kind of let me express that inside that I always covered up.
I love that. I love that. So in the telling of your story, because I had a lot of people, and I don't know if this was your scenario, but I know several people who've been on the show. One of the things that they've told me is that for a lot of them, it was their first time ever on any type of platform or any type of setting saying what they said. Like, they've never like actually came out and said that story, or sometimes they may have told the story, but maybe there was something new to the story that they had never said, and I'm like, oh, I've never said this before, but I'm saying it now. Did you have any kind of aha moments like that where you actually said something on the podcast maybe that you hadn't previously been open like that to speak to?
Well, funny aspect, I was listening to the podcast in front of my mom. And she had her portion on that.
Uh-huh.
But it was a lot of stuff that she, was just like, wow, because remember I left home. So she pretty much, only know what I opened up to her. And she was just like, well, did you tell her you was bad? I was just like, Mom, that is not the whole aspect of the parsley. But
Mama
it
said you
definitely
left something out.
She
exactly
said, I need to come on there and tell the real thing that happened. The parts that she left out.
Oh man, but it was just, actually just interesting of just hearing the feedback from it, a lot of people did relate. They were just like, "Oh my gosh, you were so raw and open." I was just like, "Nah, like I'm able to talk now." And it's just like, yeah, that force field came down. So I'm just grateful just to even just, tell my story like I said. But that was like my aha moment because it was in front of my mom, okay? And I guess she wanted me to tell the other side.
She said, tell the other side. I want to know all of it. That's cool. That's cool. Like Lynetta jumped back on with us. Can you hear us, Lynetta?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Just wanted to make sure you were good to go. We were just delving into, um, what was the experience like telling their stories, and Desiree just kind of shared, that when she was actually, listening to the podcast, she actually did it in front of her mom, and of course, as you know, there were elements of the story where her mom is mentioned, so she was just commenting about, hey, did you tell him you
Right.
was bad? Mom's trying to give her edits to it because she said Desiree didn't tell the whole. She told a whole lot, but she left some parts out that mom felt like she needed to be represented a little bit more on that. So, but that's what moms do. They want to make sure whether it's good or otherwise, they want to make sure that they get their voice in on it. So, but same question for
Okay.
you, Sarai. As you were thinking about, what story I'm gonna tell, what was that experience like prior to starting? What was it feeling like as you were telling it, and then once you came to the ending of that story, how did you feel after having told that story? What was that experience for you?
So I think I spoke on my domestic violence situation.
Mm-hmm.
And so with me telling it, I didn't really have any special feelings about it because just prior to I had a conference and I actually spoke to like even some people at my church, my parents, and gave like my full testimony for the very first time of them not hearing anything. But the more that I talk about it, it's like, man, I went through so much, but God graced me through it without me even knowing it. God protected me through it without me even knowing it. And so the more that I began to talk about it, it just let me know to feel that I have really been loved by God when I didn't love myself. And he really never left me or has forsaken me, even when I didn't even know what that verse was or knew what that meant. Like he cared about me enough even when I was in the world and didn't acknowledge him as I should have. So it just let me know that God is really a keeping God, and God really does love us. He, may not love our sin, but he loves each and every one of us. Even when we don't feel like it, he's present. So that's what it did for me with talking to it and even listening to what I was saying. When you hear it back, it's one thing
Mm-hmm.
to say it out, but when you hear it back, it's like, girl, you really did, go through some things, but so I just overall was just very, very thankful.
That's great. That's great. And I'm glad you kind of pointed that out about it's one thing to speak it, but then like the first time you actually hear yourself, what you said, like, did I say that? Wondering, was anything I left out? Was it anything,
Yeah.
or did I mean to say that? Different people are going to have different reactions from that. And even myself, even as the host, I listen back to episodes and I'm paying attention to, of course, I'm always going to be super critical about myself. So, how was I looking in terms of, did I appear to be looking the right way? Because sometimes when you're doing this recording, one of the challenges on my end is just just making sure that you're paying attention like to the camera instead of like looking at the screen, because it's a natural draw to look at you talking on the screen instead of looking at the camera, like they do on television. They're like, look at the camera, don't look at the don't look, so it's still something that I'm learning, because it's just a natural reaction to just like I'm looking at you right now as you were talking. I'm looking at you. I ain't looking nowhere near the camera, looking at you, so it's just a natural thing. So and then sometimes I may hear myself say something like, "Oh, I said that. That was kind of deep." What? And then I'm like, "Where did that come from?" But again, this is where I say God's presence is in the midst of what we're doing here, because
Yeah.
you know there may be stories that we thought we were going to say, or details to those stories that we thought we were going to say, but then when you got in that moment, God rolled through you and said, that spirit moved you and said, "No, you need to say this too." And before you even know that you're getting ready to
Yes.
say it, you say it. But you don't. But again, you don't have any regrets in saying it. It was just that wasn't part of the plan. I didn't expect to say that, but I did say it. But I'm glad I did, because it needed to be said. So that's awesome. That's awesome. Lynetta, we got you back on. I want to, of course, give you an opportunity to pour in. I know you got some affirming comments and questions that you want to ask. So if you think you're good to go on your end with your
I
technical issues,
absolutely
we
do.
good to go. Go ahead and speak to our ladies that we got here. We got some. As I know you already know, we got some powerful young women. Oh, just I mean that's really an understatement. But go ahead, I'm gonna turn that over to you. Let you get some words in, some questions for them.
No doubt. I think I'm still having some challenges though with my network, so hopefully you all can hear me clearly. I think I'm going to go into observations, and I call it observations, affirmations, and encouragement. I'm going to go into that a little later, but I'm going to the next question that Joseph had, and then I'll go into a little bit later on. So the next question was, what was the response from people that knew in advance that you had agreed to do the podcast and who actually viewed it and listened to it? So Desiree actually talked a little bit about where her mom was, but did you all other people who actually watched the episode listen? And we just are curious to know what type of responses did after people watched it. Uh, and then how did you feel about that?
Actually, I got good feedback. A lot of people, like I said, was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so raw and authentic. Like, we need people like you to just, be honest and open." My old probation officer listened to it. We actually met a lady, which we're gonna talk about at the end of the recording. Like I met her in person, and she was like, all her friends was like, "Oh my god, we watched the podcast." So it was a good feedback. I'm just grateful, like I said, to just be open and transparent at that moment. But I got great, good feedback for the both of us, like, well, everybody.
Great, that's great.
For
That's awesome.
me, I know from the snippets that I shared, just to give people snippets for them to go watch. They were very empowered by what I was saying. Just the encouragement that I was given. Um, I was at work actually trying to snip it at lunch. And I had never sat with this young lady
Mhm.
before. This was my first time sitting with her. And she heard the part about domestic violence. And she
Mm.
was like, "Is that you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I just began to like tell her a little bit of my story. And she was dealing with the same thing.
Wow.
And so God has definitely um, brought help to people through this podcast. And for me, that's all I wanted to do
For
with
sure.
telling my story or telling my testimony or just speaking God's truth. It's just to help someone, even if they're not just saying, "I'm ready to give my life to Christ," but it's planting the seed so they know who God really is and who Jesus really is. And so it's just been really good. So just thank you for even just having this platform, because for me and Desiree, I know I can speak for her as well, that it's encouraged a lot of people and it's let people see us in a different light and know who God really is and what God can bring you through because if he did it for us, he can definitely do it for you.
Certainly, most certainly. That's good.
Indeed.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff right there. And just to what you just mentioned, I'm sorry, I meant to interrupt you, Lynetta. The fact that you said the young lady just happened to be, and we saying happened, I say that lightly, very loosely, that she happened to be. I
Yeah, yeah,
believe
yeah.
she was divinely positionally sat
Yes,
next to you to overhear that while you were doing snippets. Oh, and she just so happens to catch the domestic violence part. Oh, and she just by chance is going through the same thing. Many would say that that's luck. Many would say that that was it was just a fluke moment. But we know better than that. God wanted her to be
absolutely.
by you in that moment. You had never sat with this woman before. That's not an accident. That's not a mistake. That was intentional on his behalf to hear your message, to be
Yes,
encouraged, to let her know it's not just me. I'm not the only one dealing with this, and to see you that you've been able to get through such a big storm in life like that, that gives her hope that same thing can happen for her. And so, I'm glad God used you even in that moment, in that way, as well as in other ways, as for both of you, for that matter, in the sharing of your stories. So I just wanted to comment on that real quick. Turn it back over to you, Lynetta. I know you have some more that you wanted to comment on.
No, not that I actually wasn't saying anything. I'm taking all in. I'm listening. We can go with the next question. My insights and all that are going to come up a little later on, but I wasn't going to say anything in that moment. I'm just taking it all in.
No, it's cool. That's cool. So again, we've talked about telling of the story. We talked about the feedback and things in that nature that you receive from other people. And I'm assuming nobody. And you could tell me if I'm wrong, but was there anybody who you may have shared with before you actually came on the podcast? That, hey, I'm gonna be on this podcast. Was there anybody that was kind of either and giving you that encouragement to, yeah, you should go ahead and do it? Or was there anybody who maybe was waving a flag of caution, if you sure you want to get on there and say this or say that? Did you either of you have any of that kind of experience, one way or the other?
not for me. If God tells me that I'm able to, I don't run it by anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell, certain people, that way we're able just to pray that, for God to just allow me to say, because like you said, we want to say things, but I want to just be able to say what God tells me to say.
Mm-hmm.
My parents knew that I was going to be on the podcast because I was at their house. And so I had to put a sign on the door in my mom's office, like, don't come in here, don't be loud, because the
Right.
podcast in progress.
That's cool.
But other than that, and again, my parents are very encouraging, and they just want to make sure that when I am going on platforms, that it is platforms that are really representing God, most of all. So you, again, with you being the man of God that you are, it wouldn't have been any backlash or anything like that.
That's good. That's good. And the reason why I asked that question is because I know we've had people, even just during this reunion week cycle, some who talked about how they were really nervous, but God positioned them with people around them that said, "I think you're gonna be all right. You should go ahead and don't worry about it. You're gonna be good." And then we also had some who said, "You know what? They may have had a person or two saying, you really want to." you know, put your business out there like that. You really on a platform like this where everybody's going to hear you. I mean, it's not not that you have anything to be ashamed of, but some people are just private. So even if it's not them getting ready to go tell their story, they may feel that way about somebody else, doing it, and maybe, you sure, you sure. And one guest in particular, and if you have a chance to check out the episode, you'll see this one guest in particular actually said that she got that type of feedback initially, but then after it was all said and done, and the individual who was giving that feedback to her saw the episode, they actually apologized and said, "I'm so grateful that and thankful that you did do it. You needed to do this." And now I see a whole different perspective about why you felt compelled to do that. So that's why I was curious from your end. And same with you, Desiree. I don't know if you was there anybody that was whether they were super encouraging you because maybe they thought you might be nervous, or on the flip side, you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to tell all of that, that you shared? I mean, did you have any kind of experiences like that with anybody?
No, I always have that encouragement, that support system, but it was more like it was encouraging, like just encouraging me. I was spirit led, cause I ain't never just freestyle like that. It just really came like however God just led me, and it actually just, like I said, made me be open more. So it was more. I got encouragement and support. I told a few people, just like how she said, just get people to come on and watch it. But most of all, I loved it. Outspoken.
That's great. And I think you used the perfect word. You freestyle. Both of you really did. You freestyled. It wasn't There was nothing about your stories that felt rehearsed. It felt forced or anything like that. It was just like the water the water spout was open and you just let it flow up out of you. And again, you just kept it real, kept it raw. Just here it is, like it, love it, whatever. This is me. This is who I am. I own it, and I'm not ashamed. I'm not perfect. But here's my story. Here's what it is. I hope you are blessed by it. So I appreciate that. So, and I can jump to another question unless like I said, I get to talking. And I don't want to deny my co-host opportunity because I'm running my mouth too
You
much. So.
fine. You fine. You fine. My questions are really going to be at the very end. So I want you to ask the questions. If you have the questions,
Okay.
ask the questions,
That's cool. I can keep it moving.
because I think the answers to the questions are going to sum up what it is that I have. I have
Gotcha.
quite a bit. I got some notes, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha. So, my next question that I do have for you both, now you've had this opportunity, had this experience to be on a platform, to tell your stories, to do it in a very transparent and authentic type of way. What I'd like to know from you is if you had the opportunity to um, speak some words of encouragement to someone who might be someday in the same position as you are in the sense of somebody approaches them, an opportunity presents itself for them to be on some type of platform, whether it's podcast, whether it's in church, wherever, for them to tell their story. And maybe they're a little hesitant, they're unsure. Should I say yes? Should I say no? I don't know about this. If you had a chance to offer some words of encouragement about why they should, if they ever have the opportunity to do so, what would those words of encouragement be? And I'll start with you, Desiree.
Oh, Saray, go ahead and go.
Oh, you gonna pass it off to Sarai. Okay. Well, we'll jump to you, Sarai.
I got you, girl. I got you, girl.
Yeah, backdoor me,
um,
backdoor me.
so I would say do it because I mean, listen, God does not give us a spirit of fear. And so if anything is telling you, if you know that the platform is aligns with your integrity, aligns with God's character, and fear takes over or you start to doubt, it's not from God. So you just begin to take those thoughts captive. Get with people that you know are going to encourage you, pray for you, and do it. Because you never know who's on the other side of the screen that needs to hear what you have to say. You never know whose doors that you're holding closed because you don't want to share what God has brought you through. Because again, it's not about us. It's all about giving God the glory. It's all about letting someone know how good God is and how powerful and how marvelous that He is. So I would just encourage you because your voice matters. The things that you went through matter, and someone definitely needs to hear it, no matter how big or how small. Um, and even if you don't went through anything tragic, if it has anything to do with your business, if it has anything to do with you, people need to know what you have. Someone needs it. So just be encouraged to just get on and just allow God to move you with what to say and what to do.
Love that. Love that. Same thing for you, Desiree. You got an opportunity to speak to somebody. You
The
both
reason I
speak
want
to.
her to go first is because she always tell me to pray about it first. So I'm gonna
There you
use
go.
her prayers, okay? No, but she always I love that she always tell me that like any decision like you feel like you need to make or anything, she always tell me pray about it first. Seek God first and everything. And you will know like what's for you. You know, I have been on platforms and I was like, oh no, I cannot do this again. You know, so I done felt to both sides of the field because they was like cussing a lot and stuff, and I was just like, I deal with kids, sir. Hold on, you know. So I just say I'm gonna just say pray about it first. In everything you do,
I
God is not
love
gonna give you
that.
the wrong answer.
Okay. And I love that approach too. I mean, again, because as you said, all podcasts are not created equal. And I'm not here to say that my podcast is perfect or that it's the best ever
Yeah.
that's ever existed. But like you said, you have to align yourself accordingly with what
Bro,
you're
it's good
connecting with.
though. Oh,
You
it's
got to
good.
align. You can't just be on anybody's platform just because they got a platform. Because as you know,
Yeah.
that there are some platforms that are intentionally designed to manipulate, intentionally designed to misdirect or misguide what you have to say. Platforms that are, like you said, are not about, God's presence is not here. This is some messiness. This is some foolishness. This is some crazy chaos that's going on. And don't get me wrong, here we are on this, what I like to think of as a godly platform, but we have fun here. We laugh, we talk,
Yeah.
but we do it again, we still stay within the boundaries of giving reference to who God is,
Right.
and saying, yeah, we're here to have a good time. We're not all stuffy and super zany and all of that, but at the same time, we got an agenda. We got some business to take care of,
Yes.
some kingdom business, and that kingdom business is sharing our stories and impacting and empowering. And we can't do that if we're about that messiness, if we're about a lifestyle that's outside of God's will. So I appreciate both of your perspectives, and just even with Desiree just simply saying, hey, you just got to pray on that thing, make sure that this is sealed by God to say, yep, it's okay to accept that opportunity. Or no, you might say thank you for the invite, but I'm gonna have to pass on that because we're not in alignment. And even as podcast hosts, that's something that I've learned even in this short time, that you have to be very mindful of and selective in who you bring on the show. If you have a specific you know, direction that you're trying to go, you just can't be out here, putting yourself out on social media saying, anybody want to be a guest, just reach
Right.
out to me and call me and be on. Even though it was my first season, I was very selective as to who I wrote down for people that I thought I wanted to have as potential guests. And I wasn't just trying to go through my phone or go through my email list or whatever and put down every name of every person I've ever met in life. That's not how you do it. Not if you want a quality, product, a quality message. You as a host, you want to be selective in who you bring on, and as guest, you want to be selective in the invitations that you accept. Because if you put yourself in a again an ungodly situation, something that's outside of His will, then that doesn't go well for anybody, for you personally, or for the potential listeners. They don't get to receive you in the way that God would desire to receive you, because it's just not the right setting. It's not the right environment. And so I'm glad that you both take that into consideration. And once you do get God's confirmation, I love it. And Sarai, you pointed that out. Once I got God's confirmation, then at that point, it doesn't even really matter what everybody think about that. I don't need their approval because I got His approval. And then,
Yes.
so I'm good to go. If anything, if you want to give me something, give me some encouragement. But I definitely don't need your permission now, because I already got the permission. Like, my permission slip is signed. I'm
Yes.
good to go for this. So yeah, I love that. I love that. So I'm back to you, Lynetta. I'm back to you. I'm gonna give you a chance to
I'm
jump in.
ready.
I know you've been ready. She's been firing up. She been building it up. She done took
I'm ready.
notes and
I'm
everything.
ready.
She ready.
I took notes for every episode because I really just wanted to be able to tap in and speak to everybody. I wanted to speak to the voices. I wanted to speak to the stories. And I love Joseph. I've been giving him a hard time because he's the news reporter. Like he get their level uh, apple cider voice. He real mellow with it or whatever. Like that's not my style. I love that about him. He gonna come in with the news questions and y'all gonna answer. But I'm like, I kind of have a different perspective. Like I said, the insights and the observations. So I'm gonna talk first about. So you all were the youngest. The majority of people that we've done in reunion episodes have been within my range and Joseph's range, which is 50. I'm 54. So you all are like the youngest. And I definitely saw a difference with regards to how the story is told. Like there was a whole different level of boldness in you all stories. And I think it has a lot to do with your generation. I have a 35-year-old and a 29-year-old. So I see, like, I see that. I saw it. It was like real evident, but it wasn't like in your face, like, take it. It was like, this is mine. This is what happened. It was like real matter of fact, but I'm listening to the things. I'm like, did this baby just say she been gone from home since 12 years old? Like my mind was
Right.
like trying to really, I was like, for real? And then the domestic violence, but during the actual pregnancy, and just I was just like, wow. So the first things that it was just a whole level of, first of all, respect for the resilience, which you all said resilience when you said that. I think it was Desiree. It was very evident. It was very evident in the story. So many things that I could relate to. The actual confusing lust for love, desiring it very strong and going real heavy with it. I had a childhood that had a whole lot of neglect. So as a result, I was like very promiscuous once I started having sex. With regards to Sarai, this father, and that was just like very powerful. I actually grew up in the household with my dad, but my dad was distant. Like for years, my sisters and brothers and I were like, this is just the man that lives in our house, which was crazy. And it was like that when we were really young. So that reached a whole nother pinnacle when I was like 7 or 8 years old. So when I was very young, he was engaging, he was connecting, he was like everything to me. He did no wrong. Then when he started going through those changes, he literally pulled himself away from us. I felt that. So then I went through the same thing that you were talking about. I went looking for love, starving for love, and any place that somebody shared something that halfway looked like it, I was all in. And that put me in some situations too that did not serve me well. So I could relate to both of you all stories in different ways. But the fact that both of you even acknowledge, so like Sarai, you acknowledge who you had in your parents. So you weren't just like in this total rebellious, like you can't tell me anything, like you still knew what had. Same thing people you all surround yourselves with. Like I have a profound appreciation for the fact that you're able to see beyond and still see what you need and then look for it in healthy spaces. Because trust me, a lot of kids your age aren't doing that. It's like whatever goes, however it goes, whoever it goes with. So the fact that you still had this level of regard, this level of structure, even though you're still kind of developing what that looks like. I just had such a profound appreciation for that for both of you. I'm like, your souls are just planted and your spirits are strong. That's what I had. Your soul planted, spirits are strong. As I continue to just like listen and look at the endeavors and just listening to the entirety of the conversation and then taking the wisdom of my years. So when I went through, had a major transformative experience when I was 26. I was in the psychiatric ward. I had a whole suicide plan. I was going to take my life. And this is where my story of transformation and my relationship with God really began to get solid. So it's been 28 years since that happened. So some encouragement that I want to share with you all with regards to going through those processes. You're still, like, you've been through so much in your school because of what you've gone through in your life, but the reality is you're still young and you still have a lot of years ahead of you. So I want to share some wisdom to take into those years that's going to help you to continue to develop. Our relationship with God. So God is a spirit. God is the greatest power. God is not like man. This is 100% true. However, God created us as humans and he put us in families and connected us with people for a reason. And sometimes when we go through, especially traumatic experiences and we get into this place of understanding with God or this relationship with God, I've seen, and what happened in my own life is that we'll negate people, or people don't matter. As long as me and God are good, screw everybody else, for lack of a better term. I can understand sometimes kind of having to separate ourselves because I tell us to do that. But I don't think we realize. So when you go through this major life transforming moment, right? And it's like, okay, I got God, he got me. And then it's like nothing else matters. But there's a reality. Sometimes you have to go back and deal with some of those things because you still have action, you still have to live, you still have those dreams, goals, and visions. The coloring book, the ministry that's going to be birthed out of both of you all is like ridiculous. There is a part of your past that you're going to have to deal with. So when I was writing my notes, it's like your spirituality is strong. Your psychology at this point is going to have to be developed even more. And psychology is basically going to be your motivations and your intentions and how they affect your behavior. I'm thinking about the first episode, and Desiree was talking about it. You got this like ridiculous blessing, a $6,000 blessing, but you were talking about what's going on in your household and why. But what I have found out over the years, and what's so crazy is that I didn't really find it out strongly until about 5 years ago. So it's been a 5-year process I've been developing on. It's like 49. I fractured my ankle, slipped inside and fractured my ankle. I was down for like 6 weeks. And God really started dealing with me very heavily about different things that were going on in my life. And because I had no choice but to sit down, like I couldn't walk, I couldn't do that thing. It was like a time he really poured into me. And that came 5 months after a big, huge thing, which is that I had graduated from college at age 49. I had my bachelor's degree. That was a big deal. So I had this big celebratory moment. Then I came down on this real tragic moment. And both of those things made me start really looking at my life in a different way. And then looking at my life, I saw how much my past was impacting me, even though I knew God had delivered from it. And it was because a lot of the actual details of that I had not dealt with. It was like, okay, God delivered me and he did. God saved me and he did. But I didn't deal with the impacts of what this was like, the impacts of all this lust, the impacts of the absence of love, the impacts of neglect, the impacts of single parenting. And the reason why God had me to go back and deal with it is because that was never part of his plan. God's will was never for us to have broken families. It was never for us to have multiple sex partners. It was never meant. It was certain things that were not meant. And while God is gracious and he helps us and he covers us and he keeps us, like, we got the real talk, deal with the impacts of what that is. And it's not just all spiritual that's going to help us to deal with that. Like, I really had to go to counseling. I really had to navigate through some things. I had to understand at some point, while the enemy, his job, he's a thief. He comes to steal, kill, and destroy. God comes that we have life in that more abundantly. But what does that actually look like? And how do I live that thing out? I couldn't put all of that on God and the devil, because if it was only on God and the devil, then why did he make people? Like, God really started dealing with, like, he like deep started dealing with me with that. And I was like, hey, you're right. So people, I had to understand me, how my mind works, how my thought processes are, why I keep going through the same patterns over and over and over again. And actually the Bible is, it does give us, the Bible teaches us about discipline, the Bible teaches us about relationships, all of these different things, but there's still components for people that have to be put in. So my encouragement to you all is, as you're going through this process and you're owning your story, really take this time to find out about you. Discover about your patterns. Discover about why you think the way that you think, why you act the way that you act. And everything is not because the devil's making you do something. Like, it's bigger than that. And when we do that, greater is he that's in us than he that's in the world. God is in us for sure. His spirit lives in us. His power rests in us. But at the end of the day, he still made us as people. He made us with feelings. He made us with emotions. All of these things matter, and he wonderfully and beautifully presented it in this package on purpose. So as you all are seeking out that purpose and discovering that purpose, work through all those components. I'm telling you, it's going to revolutionize everything. Ministry, please. I ain't got no worries about that. I'm already looking to see y'all like great places. That's nothing. Y'all gonna be on all kinds. But when you get there, I want you to be ready for it. And you don't have like this situation where you get loopholes or something behind the corner, and then you get to this high pinnacle, and then you get snatched down because you prepared or because you weren't equipped or those type of things. So take that time, whatever that is, psychological, financial literacy, emotional healing, like all of these components, relationship things, like all of that matters. Education. If you need to be more your education, you need to understand. So whatever it is that you're going into, if you're going to be advocates, if you're actually going out, because diving for lost kids, it was so funny. Before I watched it, I was like, what ministry do they have? Like, I don't know why I was thinking like it was like literally y'all was swimming somewhere. Don't even ask me why, but that I was thinking before I actually watched it. But I'm like, okay, diving for lost kids, what that mean? But just the whole act of diving, like really going in, like y'all going hard. That means you need a lot to sustain that ministry. And with all of that you all went through, which was, let's say, for you, Desree, about 12 years ago, think about now where kids are. Think about their mentality. You got kids popping Percocet like, I can't even think of the name of that candy now. But I mean, like, we're in a whole different time. Like, you're going to have to really be able to come on so many different facets to reach them. And you have everything in you to do that. It's now just about learning how to use it. You got to learn use what it is that you already have. And I'm excited about the fact that you have community. I'm excited about the fact for you, Sarai, that you all already have a loved one. So you got those parts. And you got prayer. The fact that you like, okay, we got to pray about this thing. The fact that you all are connected, none of this is happenstance, like Joseph said. We can confidently say, we make our plans, but God determines our steps. God ordered these steps to go the way that they're going. He ordained this reunion episode. He ordained this conversation that we having right now. All of us are confident in that. This is the Lord's doing. It's marvelous in our eyes. So I'm just encouraging you all with all of that. Take that to the next step. So then when the questions come and ask, because like I said, everybody might start out talking about God or Christ. They might come just like something. Do you have a number for domestic violence? Or I don't even understand. This dude talking about he loved me, but then he doing that. Or I'm just strong enough to let go. Like, you already know how people feel like, I'm just so stupid because I'm keep taking this and I can't get up to leave. But then in somebody's mind, all they thinking is that they're stupid. No, there's other things that are connected to that. There's psychological reasons why you can't just get up and go. Like, we got to discover what those are so that we can also help the next person with that as well. And I think oftentimes, especially in Christian culture, people don't like to talk about that because they're like, okay, once you get there, you're negating God. No, you're not. God said all things work together for good to those who love him, to those who are called according to his purpose. So it all works together. If it wasn't supposed to work together, he would not have put it in us. That's the reality of it. So I just want to encourage you all in that. It's, I said, along there. You're seeing when this started connecting. So you all have a wonderful opportunity to get a crack on it long before me. By the time you get 50, I'm talking like millions. I mean, y'all will be in a whole nother tax, a whole nother mentality, a whole different, and that's the way, greater works than these shall we do. Jesus told us that. So if he told us that and we already see it happening, we should have an expectation that the next generation is going to go even higher. I have the greatest expectation that you all are going to go farther than I ever went. But my wisdom should help the generations that are under get there. You understand what I'm saying? So that's what I got. I was beyond impressed. I was beyond impressed. I have profound respect for the both of you. Profound respect for the both of you. All right.
Very,
But now.
very well said. Very well said. And I hope the two of you receive, the encouragement, the wisdom, the insight. Because as she said, I mean, we both have our works to do, and obviously we're a little bit up in years above you, but we plan on finishing strong and on a high note. But we know that there are those, coming right behind us, and that's always the expectation when you really are truly concerned about the growth and development of other people. Even me being a father, and I got a 16-year-old, and I most certainly want her to, when her time is up, that she's done twice or three times as much as I ever did. I want that. It's just a natural thing, So ride with your children. You want them to get the lessons faster, to understand the things better, and they can benefit from our mistakes, from our experiences, from our challenges. We can pour into them, so maybe it won't be as hard for them. That doesn't mean that they'll be problem free, but maybe they'll just have a better perspective. They'll get it sooner than we got it, and they'll do more. They'll impact more. And all the children that you're reaching, Desiree, with the works that you do, you're constantly having group sessions, book readings with these kids. I mean, and to Lynetta, to your point, you talk about the title, that was intentional. I blended both of their ministries together in formulating the titles. So we got Diving In for Lost Kids, and I got confirmation from them, because that was one of the first things that they commented about. Oh, we love that title. It was like, it was meant for them, because they're doing two different things, but it's all on the same path. And so with them already being connected as friends and sisters of Christ with one another, it's like it just blended, it just meshed, it fit perfect for them. And
That's awesome.
I co-sign on everything that Lynetta said. I'm expecting great and magnificent and wonderful things to take place, which by the way takes us into our closing part of this evening's podcast. As you know, is customary on the show. I like to have a moment in the podcast where we get to love on you, we get to celebrate you, we get to acknowledge great things that are happening about you, an opportunity for you to share with other people how they can connect with you and anything that you're about. But one thing in particular that I would like, either one of you can share this, as you notice, throughout the show, I've made mention multiple times how much your stories had an impact. And this particular episode, one of the things that made it extra special, and Lynetta is maybe perhaps hearing this for the first time, one of the things that made this episode very special was your stories not only impacted people, but it actually brought forth an example of an opportunity, the very same opportunities that Lynetta is talking about, that she sees for you all having tons and tons of times over and over and over again. That was birth from your episode. There was an individual, and I'm not going to tell the whole story, but there was an individual who reached out to me that I was first and foremost surprised that they had even listened to the episode. I didn't even know that they had listened to it. I was, because this is not a person. It's a person that I know, but it's not somebody that I'm cool with. I'm cool with their husband, but I don't really know the individual. So I was totally surprised that they were even commenting about it. I'm like, how did you see this episode? But then even more than that, they expressed their the fact that they really resonated with your stories. And again, that birth and opportunity. So if you would, either one of you can share with our audience, what opportunity came about from this particular comment that I'm referring to, this individual that I'm referring to. You both on your mute, so whichever one you want to come off. Who wants to tell a story, Sarai or Desree? Okay, I'm gonna pick. Since y'all neither one of y'all gonna say that. Sarai, you tell a story. Come off mute. Tell us what happened.
So with the both of our episodes, one of the women that were watching was just so elated about how transparent and raw that we were with being open and honest with the things that we've been through. So they reached out to you to get in touch with us for us to be on her platform for a ministry and a conference that she does. And I just thought that was, I just thought that was just really, really cool because when you get on, you thinking, okay, I'm just gonna get on here and tell my story, or I'm just gonna get on here, and not think further from what you're doing. And so, and it was really quick. It wasn't like months. It was like, like a
Days.
week. It was not long at all. And she just was so encouraged by how open and honest and transparent that we were, that she just wanted us to come and speak on something that she already had planned. So it wasn't as like, she was in the works. This was already planned for her to think like we're important enough, or our stories are important enough for her to add us in and fit us in, was just a real blessing,
And that's awesome. So
That's
again,
awesome.
ladies and gentlemen, what you're hearing here is these ladies did their story on the podcast. Somebody who listened to reached out to me, said, I need their contact information. Can you please get it to me? Because I have an opportunity for them. And that opportunity is leading them to be included in a women's conference that she's been hosting for a number of years. And as Sarai stated, this has already been planned. It was already calendared and on schedule, but she heard your stories and she said, these two young ladies got to be a part of my women's conference. And so
Yes.
here they
So
are. And a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, you're like within a
It's
few
this
days of this.
Saturday.
Yes, this
Yeah.
weekend coming up. That you
oh,
will,
I'm excited.
yes.
You
Yes. I
get to make
mean,
room for you, women of God. I'm excited.
mhm.
We're gonna have to do another reunion so I get the tips and highlights. I want to hear about it. This is gonna be awesome.
E-
Awesome. That's
e-
great. That's
exactly. And
great.
Desiree, I think you had a
Good for
chance
you.
to meet the woman's name is Cecilia. You had a chance to meet Cecilia in person, right? Did both
Oh
of you get
yeah,
to meet her or just you?
We both
actually,
did,
the event
actually.
that Saray had with her domestic violence, the lady Cecilia, she was going to another event, but they canceled.
Mm-hmm.
So she came there, and I when I walked in, I said, "Ain't that the lady we supposed to be meeting?" And so it was like a divine connection. We got to able to meet her in person before the event. So and me and her actually became close friends. So yeah, it's very interesting, from her listening, and she just been sharing it with all her coworkers. I had met a majority of her coworkers at her book signing, and they was like, "Oh my God, we were so ready to listen to the podcast. Someone listening." So I just can't wait till this Saturday just to even just get the feel of that platform.
That's just awesome. And
That's
again,
awesome. That's how God moves.
mhm,
Your gifts will put you and put
Make room.
in.
yeah.
That's his word. He cannot lie. So all we're doing is seeing the manifestation of God already promised. And the key to it is be prepared to step into everything that He has. That's just what it comes down to.
Exactly.
That's
And
exciting. That's awesome. That's
I mean, I was
awesome.
just totally thrilled when I got the message. I was like, after I got over the shock that it was her reaching out to me, because like I said, I mean, other than hi or whatever, that's about the conversation we have. I mean, like I said, I'm really good friends with her husband, and I know him more than I really know her. But yeah, so for her to reach out and then say, I want these ladies a part of my conference, please give me their contact information. Okay. You know. And so
Yes.
I was all, geeked up to even send you all that message, and to know that this, platform produced that opportunity, and this just goes back to what I said. We never know who's going to hear your story, and it's going to connect, it's going to resonate, and you never know where that goes from there. And so to Lynetta's point, this is exactly the type of thing that she says that she's going to see. This is just the beginning. You just scratching the surface. That this type of thing
Absolutely.
is going to be the norm for you. That
Yeah.
in the works that you
Exactly.
do. So,
Yeah.
again, each of you have your respective ministries that you're doing. And if you'd like to elaborate a little bit more about some of the activities that you have coming up or anything like that, and how people can connect with you if they're interested, whether it's to be a part of or contribute to or support in any kind of way, please do that. So I'll jump to you, Sarai. I know you gave a brief introduction about Dive Ministries. Kind of maybe tell a little bit about what exactly does Dive Ministries do, and how can people connect with you or in any type of way to be a part of that.
Yeah. So again, we help children, youth, and women. So we're not limited to. Again, it's just about really pouring into them about knowing who they are in God, because that's where it starts. If you don't know who you are in God, or truly know the God and the Jesus that you serve, to know His character,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to know who you are. It's hard to know, the characteristics of Him. So I'm just here to pour into these women, these children, and especially these youth, about who they are, because a lot of times, as Ms. Letter was saying, it's a deeper level of why are you allowing these type of things, you know what I mean? So we have to go a little bit
Yeah.
deeper, and that's what I'm here for us to get to the root of the issue, of the problem, so we're able to attack that with prayer, attack that with scripture again, so you're able to have a good foundation, and that again starts with Jesus. In May, we'll start back our road to purity. Again, that is for ages 12 through 18. I really feel that it is very important, again, for them to know who they are. This is not to throw in their throat, oh, don't have sex before marriage. Again, when you know what Jesus expects of you for real, and you begin to know His love, I think that stops a lot. It doesn't put the rules to say, oh, you can't do X, Y, and Z. You'll just begin to know the characteristics of God, and you make your choices off of that. And so we just really dive into scenarios, we dive into who they are, we dive into just pouring into them about how loved they are. So again, that starts in May. You're able to reach me through www.diveministry.org. I'm on Facebook with Sarai, Sarai Johnson. Again, I will again be looking for mentors, because I am ready to start back the mentoring program for youth. I did have to just take a pause on that with us transitioning, but um, let's just connect, because again, the youth they're a little different. They're dealing with a lot of things. And so I just want to get out in the community and just pour into these young women, because a lot of times, like I've stated, I've been in a two-parent household, but just because you're in a two-parent household, there are things that the children and the youth are going through. Just because they don't pay bills, just because we feel like they don't go through things, they go through things. And so I'm just here to be an advocate for them. You may have that open door policy, but I feel that it is always good for the youth to have mentors in their life, just even as women need to have mentors in their life. So, um, yeah, I just, again, thank you for this platform that you have set forth for us to come on and just express our love for God at a young age, because people need to see the young out here just loving God.
Mm.
Again, we're not perfect, but we're just striving to do what Christ has asked us to do here on earth, and just be the light of the world. So that's just what we're here to do.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Love it. Love what you're doing, and
I love it.
you just keep on doing it, and letting God just expand, broaden, reach all levels. Never put any type of limitations on what you're doing, because it's definitely needed, and He's got the right person in position to make it happen. So,
Absolutely.
I'm excited for you, and just grateful to know you, and just looking forward to, as Lynetta talked about, all the magnificent and wonderful things that are going to happen with you, and be like, yeah, I know her. I know her. I hopefully you'll still remember me.
Okay.
I know her. Don't forget about me. But you're like, who is that? No, is that one guy that one time long ago? He had that little podcast I was on that one time. You know.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Okay.
It's a big podcast, okay?
Do it.
I'm just picking with you. I'm just
Okay.
picking with you.
You a conduit. You connecting people. You
There
doing
you
things,
go.
man.
There you go. There you go. Same for you, Desiree. Tell everybody, give them a little bit more insight about what Lost Kids does, how they can connect with you. If you got anything exciting that's coming up, we need to know about anything we can celebrate and love on you about. Please tell us.
Once again, Lost Kids is basically I was once lost now found. So I'm basically creating an IP around my characters, bringing it to real life time. We do kind of some of everything. I am growing soon. People been pouring in to like donate towards my ministry. I don't know what that looks like, y'all. But right now it's more like reflection with me. Just like Lynette said, like um how she was like loves relationships, and so I think God is just dealing with me right now. So I'm kind of like taking a step back from
Yeah.
business and to regain my focus on what God really has for me. Um, so just stay tuned. I've been having doing events and stuff. I just did story time at Half Price Bookstore. So kudos to me because that was a milestone. Okay.
Yep.
um, I'm just really just taking a step back right now. So I'll just keep updating stuff on like my Facebook, Desree Robinson, or my Instagram, Lost Kids Coloring Book. And I will be building on my website, lostkids.us. It's just got a little minor stuff on there. But I'm just really taking a step back to reflect on getting ready to go into this next level. So I'm trying to understand like what God is doing with me. But I'm
Mhm.
embracing where I'm at right now because obviously it was some things like Lynette said I had to deal with. And in order before you go to that next level, you just gotta go on and deal with it now, then later. So
I love that.
Absolutely.
I love that. And I appreciate the fact that you said, you know what, I had to take a step back. I had to take a moment to reset, to recalibrate, to get my focus right, because I understand that I'm about to level up, and I want to be ready for the level up. And
yeah.
so, for anybody who's listening, sometimes we have to have those moments. I don't care how successful your thing has been going, how much money you've been making, how much attention you've been getting.
Absolutely.
Every now and then you got to
Take
reassess,
a step back.
reevaluate, tweak, pivot,
Yeah.
whatever you got to do so you can keep that momentum
Yeah.
going, keep it flowing. So that's all you're doing. It doesn't mean that it's, oh, she's not
Absolutely.
doing it anymore, it's over. No, it's not over. It's just beginning.
Uh-uh.
I'm swinging hard. I'm swinging for the fences with you.
Yeah.
So, so
Yeah.
that's cool, and I
Facts.
appreciate that. And just as I said to Sarai, I'm excited for you, Desiree. I know you're gonna do awesome and wonderful things. You both, but you just have that spirit about you, that energy. I mean, Lynetta, when I tell you, this young lady, she just has a personality that just lights up the room. I mean, when I met her, just to give you a
That's
quick story, when
awesome.
I met her, Lynetta, here I was, I'm sitting there at this event. I got my little, little roller bag with my books in it. Why is she out here? She's out here selling my books. We need to
I
get this
love it.
book. We need to get you get this book. She turned this around. You got this book. She's like, no, but I need to get one. Yes, you do. Go ahead and get that book. Go and get the sign in that book for her.
I
You need a
love
book. You
it.
need a book. I mean,
I love it.
she was taking control of the room. Like, look at her. I was like, that's some boldness, some confidence. She got up and spoke, in front of the room because they give you opportunities at this particular event to speak about. She got on up there and spoke her thing like she been doing this for as long as we've been alive. That's how
I
she
love it.
spoke. So it's already in both of you. You have it there.
Yeah.
For
You just gotta
sure.
build.
For
Just gotta
sure.
build. Keep building on it. I mean, the charisma, the personality, the connections. You two are both individuals that are just easy to fall for, to just to
Yeah.
connect with, to admire, to like. You're
Yes.
likable. And that's to your advantage. When you can light up a
Influential. You're
room on first
influential.
contact, when people just
Yeah.
meet you and they already, like I said to you, I feel like I already knew y'all. We were
Yeah.
just sitting at a table eating and just having small talk, and I felt like we were just catching up.
Right.
So that's how it felt being in your presence. So that's a wonderful thing, and it's part of your gift, and it's going to help you
That's right.
propel in what you're doing, the works that God has planned for you to do, the vision that He's placed in you. So I'm super excited and looking forward to great and wonderful things. And just as is before was the case, you ladies are always welcome to come back on the show for anytime, anything. We can always chop it up. It's so much to talk about and delve into. So I appreciate you and all that you're doing, and just pray God's blessings over your lives and your works and everything that you touch. So I'm excited for you. So with that said, that brings our reunion episode to a conclusion, our reunion week to a conclusion. It's been an awesome time hanging out with our guests, and who better to top it off,
Yes. And
to
awesome. I
seal the
already put y'all
deal.
on social media platforms.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
So I can
absolutely.
connect.
There you go. There you go. So what a wonderful way to end our first ever reunion, week special with these two lovely young ladies doing their thing, empowering, impacting, inspiring. We love that. For my guests who've tuned in, my viewers, if you've enjoyed this podcast, the content, the conversation, please subscribe, please like, please share, please comment. You see how we do. We've been saying it all season one. We inspire, we encourage, we uplift. We keep it real, we keep it raw, we keep it transparent, we keep it authentic. It's intentional, and we don't
Yes.
allow we don't allow any distractions, any glitches or anything like that to disrupt us. We are
Yes.
on a mission. We have a message to share. We're about
That's
kingdom
right.
business. This is what we're doing here. And we're just trusting and believing that lives are going to be changed, that people are going to be blessed by what you hear. I know I'm always blessed in doing this, and this scenario is no different right now. These young ladies are blessing me yet again as the third time visitors. Nobody's been on 3 times. So the third time visitors on the podcast,
Okay.
so they know how to bless you in their own unique and special way, and I'm receiving it all. I'm thankful for it and thankful for them. Thanks to my co-host Lynetta. Thank you so much for hanging out with me for the reunion week. It has been
Thank
a
you for having
thrill,
me,
a
man. I'm
pleasure.
honored. I'm
Um,
honored.
it's been awesome. And Lynetta's gonna be back again for some future special episode editions that we'll do periodically through season 2. So this won't be the last time you see her.
Okay.
So this was the first time I ever had a
Okay.
co-host during this time, and it's been fun and sharing that stage and with somebody of such wisdom, such grace, such perspective. She's a great
Oh
balance for
man.
me.
To God be the glory.
She said I'm apple cider,
Take
right?
lightly.
She called me apple cider. She say so. she
I'll say brown
she
liquor,
said
but I'm trying
she
to
be
get
like,
on
she said,
it.
let me spike that
It
cider
tastes
for
like
him. I'm
so
gonna spike it
I'll
a
take
little
it.
bit for him. So she's my spike, but she keeps me accountable, and she's been very supportive,
Right.
very encouraging, and you're gonna see us doing big things too. So we're gonna be with y'all. We're gonna be doing some big things
Yes.
too.
Speak
So
it. You better
that's absolutely,
speak it.
absolutely. We already claiming that victory right now. It's already done. We're just waiting
Yes.
for God's
Jesus'
appointed
Jesus'
name.
time
name.
and moment to give it to us. So we're gonna be ready for it. So with
Yeah.
that said, Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. And remember, here at the Blessings in the Streets podcast, this is a place where your story is your glory, where your relationships are relevant, and where your journey is your joy. I am your host, Joseph B. Roberts. Thank you so much for tuning in. And until next time, keep fighting that good fight. Stay strong. Keep the faith. Lean into God for that dependence, for that understanding, for that guidance, for that direction.
Yes.
If you don't have a relationship with Him, I
Yes.
promise you, making that decision will be the best decision
Yes,
that you
decision.
ever make. We're not telling you something that we heard. We're telling you something that
know.
that we know from personal
Yes.
experience.
Yes, we are. That's
We
right.
have felt it. We have lived it, and we are now trying to pour it into other people, trying to get you connected to it. There's enough room for all of us,
Yes.
and He wants all of that
Yes.
from us. He loves us unconditionally and wants nothing but the best for us. And there's no storm, no adversity, no challenges that are too big for any of us to overcome with Him leading the way. He can be our covering of protection, our eyes and ears to navigate us through that storm. So when we come up out of it, we do so standing upright, stronger, better, wiser than what we were before that. Storms now become opportunities for us. We don't look at them as negative events. We look at them as an opportunity to be blessed and to be a blessing to other people. So we pray that you were blessed with our show for today. And again, thank you for tuning in. I'll check you out next time. Take care of yourselves.
Okay. Thing to that. If you don't know Jesus, for more information, put in the comments. Joseph or I will get back in contact with you. We do not want you to miss. We're glad you listened to the podcast. We pray that you get something out of it, but your soul is what matters the most. So if you want information, you want prayer, reach out. Let's put your contact information in the comments and we'll get back to you.
Amen.
Thank you for sharing that. Amen. Feel free to reach out. We would definitely love to hear from you, love to connect with you, and love for you to share. Again, let others be blessed by this. If you, of course, receive that blessing, don't keep it to yourself. Share with others because there's so many out there that
That's
need
right.
it. So again, take care of yourselves. We love you. Thank you we appreciate you for tuning in, and we'll check you out next time. Take care of yourselves.